Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, speakers, partners, and participants. Good afternoon. I'm Prisa Sompodatu, your MC for today extraordinary event. Let's give us a round of applause for all of us. Thank you. Today's session marks the opening of IEF Talk Panel 1, held under the theme The Open Network Powering Financial Services. This discussion will explore how open networks are reshaping the financial services ecosystem, enhancing inclusivity, efficiency, and innovation in the digital economy. Ladies and gentlemen, to begin this session, we are honored to invite our distinguished speaker to deliver the keynote address. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Nilay Patel, founder of Easypay. Mr. Nilay, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. It was an amazing session today, earlier with the Honorable Ministers, Vice Minister, His Excellency Ambassador, and a lot of distinguished guests who honored us with their presence. But I'm supremely excited to see the ION launch and the way ION is forming up and the excitement that I see in this room. And I'm pretty sure that in coming days and years, it'll be an amazing platform protocol which will help entire Indonesia. I can speak from my experience in India of ONDC and the way virtuously ONDC has shaped up and people are participating. So, again, what I saw, India and Indonesia are, in a way, digital twins. The most populous country in the world and fourth most populous country in the world. Now, the biggest and the most interesting similarities is the median age of India is 28 years and median age of Indonesia is 30 years. So whenever I want to pitch India to somebody, I always say in a one-liner that, I'm 28 years old and I'm 1.4 billion of me. So I think that same statement goes for Indonesia as well, that 30 years, the way we consume the products and services is drastically going to change in coming days. And what I like to also mention is that, the way monopolistic platforms have or are ruling the economies today, it's more like digital colonization, and nobody wants that. So when it comes to open network, it's like, taking a kid to a Lego store. When you put them across the table, despite of their gender, despite of their ages, they sit down on that Lego table and start building. Now, that is exactly what ION or an open network would do. I'll try and constrain myself to financial services mainly, but truly financial services and e-commerce both play a very crucial role in any economic development of any country, and especially MSMEs. Staggering numbers in Indonesia, right? 97% of the population engaged in MSME. Think of the financial services and inclusion that can be delivered via an open network. So I foresee a world without apps. So in terms of engineering, imagine everything coming together on one table, which is a protocol, and that protocol can do and deliver multiple things, starting from credit. So any developed nation is always based on credit and the access to the credit given to the small businesses. Now, in a couple of days when I roamed around streets of Jakarta, I saw so many similarities. Small stores, small shops, somebody selling carpet, somebody selling rugs, to a restaurant. I mean, imagine if the credit can be given on a fly. Right? We've been fortunate enough to be part of ONDC from day one, and we were the first company in India to go live on the loan. So our first ever loan on ONDC, we did it under 6 minutes. Now, that 6 minutes will come down to 6 seconds, and 6 seconds will come into microseconds. And just to give you an example or analogy, in older days, we used to write a letter. It would reach somebody in days or weeks. Then somebody would reply. Now today, over a smartphone, we just send a message, and instantaneously somebody gets that message and then replies, we get that reply immediately. The same way, imagine the financial services, the goal-based saving. I mean, MSMEs employing 97% of the workforce in Indonesia. Imagine the extension of the finance that can be given to the families of the employees of MSMEs. I mean, it is mind-blowing the way open network is going to shape the future. And I'm really, really happy to see such a participation. Another example that I would want to give is, in financial services, in 1939, first ATM was introduced by Citibank called Bankograph. 28 years later, Barclays introduced ATM. Now we're looking at a phase when ATMs will go extinct. It'll be all digital. And when it comes to digitization, nothing better than public participation and open network where people come, build, and consume. In India, what we've seen is a rise of e-commerce, and then from e-commerce, it has gone to quick commerce. I mean, people want instant things, like, under 10 minutes. Now, if you can get insurance immediately, I mean, if you can get credit immediately, and the way Open Network or ONDC in India works is on the same protocol, there are multiple banks and NBFCs that are plugged in. And when I apply for a loan, so if I raise a hand and imagine 10,000 NBFCs and hundreds of banks bid for my profile. So a consumer gets a power, and sense of empowerment, which tells me that, okay, and it's straightforward, it's so transparent that I get to choose where I want to borrow from. I know exactly at what interest rate, what tenure, what are the repayment conditions, so on and so forth. So ONDC or ION is something which is the way of the future. And I welcome you all to join the same, and really, really happy and excited again to be part of this. Thank you so much.
We kindly invite Mr. Nilay Patel to remain on stage. Sir, please. And take the seat that has been prepared. Thank you. As we will proceed directly to our panel discussion. The Open Network Powering Financial Services. To moderate this discussion, it is my pleasure to invite Dr. Bayu Prawira, Digital Transformation Expert and Executive Director of the Intellectual Business Community, IBC, to please come forward to the stage. At the same time, I would like to invite our distinguished panelists to join us on stage. Mr. Siddharth Prakash, Head of Product Strategy, Emerging Market, Google Cloud. Mr. Surab Gupta, Senior Vice President Product, Flip. And Mr. Ronald Wala, Head of MSME Apindo and President Director of PT Wismilak. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause as our moderator and panelists take the stage.
Test, test, test. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for staying with our discussions this time. So, we've seen this morning so much fire that we had on these movements of ION, Indonesia Open Networks. And we have seen a lot of speeches and presentations about how we really need ION. Within these discussions, we will discuss about the more the implementations, and also we focus on how this ION can help the financial inclusions of the MSME, right? So we have here some panelists which are very well known and will be sharing a lot of important things. First is Pak Ronald Wala. Give applause, Pak Ronald. Pak Ronald is the head of MSME Apindo and the president director of PT Wismilak Inti Makmur Tbk. Yeah, Pak Ronald, this today is representing Apindo, which we had already Bu Sinta this morning, that already showed how Apindo is really committed to support the MSME, which is very important to Indonesia. And we have Surab Gupta. Yeah, Surab is SVP of product Flip. By the way, even though Surab looks like an Indian, he's an Indian, but Flip is Indonesian company. Yeah, Flip is an Indonesian company, right, Surab? Right. So he represents an Indonesian company. So this lunch break, we had a person who was saying that I saw that so many Indian people, business people coming here. Are they the one who will be on the ION? Yeah, we will say that in the ION we had the support of those Indian to start this ION, but then the ION is for mostly for Indonesian company, right? So next is Mr. Nilay Patel, which is our keynote speaker just now, which he already mentioned that Nilay Patel is the CEO of Easypay, right? So Easypay is one of the one that started in the very early phase with the ONDC in India. Yeah, we mentioned a lot of ONDC because ONDC has been our role model, already really working in India. So we are following the track of a successful track. Yeah, that's already proven and tested there. And the last but not least is the Mr. Siddharth. Mr. Siddharth is the Mr. Siddharth is the head of product strategy emerging markets of Google Cloud. Who here doesn't know Google? I think everybody is using Google, and I think most of the Android phones, you have to log in with Google Gmail address, right? So to present the background of our discussions, I summarized some of the points that has been presented this morning. Is that our MSME, so we have to mention it correctly, MSME, because the first M is the most important. It's the micro, small and medium enterprises. Out of the whole MSME, the micro consists of more than 99% of the whole MSME, right? So MSME also consists of more than 99% of the whole business unit in Indonesia. Yeah? And it employs more than 97% of people, employment in Indonesia. And we have also already seen it also contribute more than 60% of the GDP in Indonesia. Yeah? And also, just Nilay has been shared has shared the point that they really need the financial support, yeah, to grow their business. We have in Indonesia, we have a lot of consumer lendings, consumer supports. In fact, it grows so fast that it becomes problem now with the pinjol. But what we are looking for is how we can support the loans for productivity, which is for the for the business of MSME. Yeah. But because of maybe the data of that is not that easy, yeah, so that when the pressure comes to disburse the loans, they disburse the loans to the the consumers loans, which is it doesn't really support the business. And then we see that with the supporting of financial inclusion for MSME, we can have better growth of MSME, which is the backbone of Indonesian economy. Yeah? And also by supporting it, then there will be increase in job creation because of the employs more than 97% of the employments, and also that means job creation. Yeah, and we see that the figure that with supporting their financial inclusions, we can have about 43% of growth and 30% of job creation. So what I want to extend is how important it is to have financial inclusions for MSME, right? And MSME here again consists mostly, dominantly by micro, yeah, by micro businesses which has no track record of data, right? So let me ask a first question first to see how's the Indonesian MSME going on with the digital, yeah. So. And the second thing why this session is maybe will be interesting to you, because in these sessions you will have opportunity to questions, yeah, not just listen. There may be things that you really want to ask questions, and maybe can help with the QR code for question. Yeah, for those who wants to extend questions, please scan this QR code and write down your questions. And I will mention the name also, and maybe you can also identify yourself when the question is being read. Okay. To start the discussions, let me start with Pak Ronald. Pak Ronald, we've been talking about this EON, yeah, and what do you think is the benefits of Indonesian MSE of this EON, and what will be the challenges? Yeah. And how do you think this will help with our topic, the financial inclusion of MSME in Indonesia? Because you know exactly, you've been dealing a lot with MSME in Indonesia with your involvement in Apindo, yeah. And please help us to understand the situations here, how the MSME can really, benefit from digitalizations, but then what will be the challenges?
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Dear panelists, thank you for having me here. I guess one of the speakers this afternoon or this morning mentioned something about G20 or B20, which happened in Bali back in 2022, and reminded me of what happened. I was there as well. And I quoted it even. I spent like 2-3 days over there, and they always mention these words: ecosystem, inclusivity, collaborative, togetherness, solidarity, cooperation, gotong royong, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, recover together, recover stronger, right? So I felt this is a blessing. It's what a noble initiative by the Mr. Koshi, ONDC, and his team. that finally there is a open system tools to make us able to collaborate with all initiative. And as we know, we've been discussing a lot about funding for SME, and but for in general entrepreneurs, we see that the most important thing is to know, to understand what we want to do, what we want to make, what we want to do. So the market information and access to market information, that will be the fundamental issues for SMEs. And I think it's not necessarily only for SMEs, but for everyone, even for big conglomerates, that's the main issues. Finding the opportunity to learn and grow and make a difference. And then after that will be after knowing what to do, what to make, then the ecosystem to grow together, and the kind of capacity building to do depends on what we want to do, what we want to sell. And then after that, funding play an important roles and may be able to reduce the risk, the failure risk of failure in doing business, because doing business is like a sort of gambling. There's a chance that there's risk involved here, right? Management risk, business risk, and all that. So, and we believe that this ION will be able to address all these issues. And we've been talking a lot about pentahelix framework, which involve a lot of people, because as we know, the statistic is talking about 64 million SMEs contributing so much to the GDP and the labors in Indonesia specifically. Pentahelix framework, everyone knows that it's about the collaboration between the government, the academics, the private sectors, the association, the media. So with this open network, we'll be able to slowly gather more and more information. And I've been working with SMEs since 2018, and I've seen a lot that we have all of the resources actually. And I guess Pak Menteri Maman mentioned as well that the problem with the SME leadership in Indonesia is collaboration. Again, back to this terms. So, and collaboration requires trust to be able to work together. And this ION system will be able to provide us with a lot of data, and will be a lot of data for funding, a lot of data for policy making, a lot of data for some of the basic issues for SME is the cost to make products to market, and some of them will be energy, raw material and all that, and that will involve a lot of public policy making. So I guess in short, with this, a lot of analytics, a lot of impact or sustainable development goals oriented programs will be able to be accelerated. More parties in the pentahelix scheme will be stakeholders able to join on board. So I think it's a great win-win solution based on automatic data exchange, and looking forward and excited to get it launched together with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Ronald. To Siddharth from Google, we were talking about data, yeah? But we know that data is regulated. Data is something that's sensitive to, to be handled. Yeah. So with this open network, how we can govern the data so that it complies with all the regulations of data? Yeah, that's the first question. And second, one of the keynote speakers said that the MSME should find it so easy to onboard, so that they can, easily onboard without any limitations. So based on your experience in NDC, how different it is with current onboarding that has been done with other e-commerce? Thank you. Please.
No, thank you, Dr. Bayu. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, Indonesia Economic Forum, for having us here. It's always interesting to be in a panel right after lunch, so hopefully people will wake up, and I think what I'm going to do is be a little provocative as I answer your question, because it's very important for all of us to actually take a step back. And I think since morning we've been talking about open network and breaking the platform monopoly and so on and so forth. I think one fundamental question that, at least in my head, when I got involved in ONDC and open networks, was why are we doing this? Are we actually solving a problem that doesn't exist, or is there a reason towards doing something of this sort, where you are decoupling the ecosystem, making it sound so complicated even though it's not, right? And that's where I'll come to your question in terms of data as well. So to my point, that are we solving for something that's been solved? No. And that's why we talk about MSMEs, we talk about sectors like agriculture, because this is the mass in any country in emerging markets, be it India, be it Indonesia, any other market, right? So there's a large population that's still underserved. And when I say underserved, financial inclusion is obviously the number one key marquee priority. To your question around data, I mean, and again, on a lighter note, I've heard many heads of state say this, that data is the new oil, right? Because that's where AI is headed, and data obviously is the currency and so on and so forth. But so far, what we believe or what we've seen in the market is that everybody feels that my data is being used by somebody else. I am not benefiting from my data. With open network, that is the advantage, or I would say the opportunity, where because the nature of open network is decentralized, there is no central control, nobody controlling the ecosystem. You are owner of your data, and data stays at the edges. That's one. Second, I think what is different from an open network construct like ION or ONDC is the fact that you don't give blanket consent, right? So for example, you are applying for a loan, and you're only specifically looking for a loan in a window of 3 days, 5 days, or whatever. You want to consent to sharing only certain amount of data with 1 or 2 players that you choose. You can do that. Today, it's either 0 or 1, right? I mean, it's basically nothing in between. So essentially, once you give consent for something, that's used and manipulated for 10 different things. In this construct, it is possible. It wasn't earlier, right? Third, very important point, and I think my co-panelists just called that out, right? I mean, we talk about MSMEs specifically. It's again a situation where one would argue that there are banks who want to give loans and there are people who want to take loans. What's the problem, right? I mean, there's somebody who's willing to give, somebody willing to take. The problem is there is no data, right? So if you and I want to apply for a loan, obviously it's easy because we have our tax returns and all of those things that banks can look at and consider a loan. But you talk about a micro business or a small business, even though they may have done really well historically in the previous years, it's very difficult for them to prove this, right? They will look at whatever taxes they have paid, and everything is manual and very, very task intensive. So much so that, at least in some markets that I've seen, people hesitate to take a loan. They say taking the loan is a 1-year process. And instead of focusing on getting a loan, let me focus on what I have so that end of the day, I have food at home, right? So in this construct, because you own your data, it's with you, and you can use it the way you want. With ION and this initiative, you get awareness, you get discovery. You know who are the financial players who want to give you a loan. So this data, which earlier people felt was being used by others to calculate a bunch of things, will now be beneficial to you, right? So again, I think you also brought up a very important point around data governance and privacy and so on. I mean, look, even if ION doesn't exist, there are laws in every country that protect people, right? So it's very, very important, in fact, paramount, that whatever happens in ION is obviously completely aligned to how the country governs the law and so on and so forth. Many countries are coming up with new laws. India just had a law on privacy that came out last year. I'm sure Indonesia has one. So all of those concerns don't exist. I mean, it's basically that is status quo, which is not getting changed. What's getting changed is discovery. Your last point, and I'll pause after this, on what does MSME need to do to be part of this ecosystem? The answer is nothing. Because the moment the barrier to entry is high, that is where you will start seeing friction, right? I mean, you don't want to actually become tax on somebody to say, unless you do A, B, C, D, you will not be able to sell. Because it's the same problem like I was talking about loans, right? I mean, you can get a loan from a bank, but if it's going to be complicated, you better not do it. So the entire effort, at least at Google, and that's why I'm here amongst all of you, is to minimize this friction. So what we are trying to do is we are building very smart, intelligent agents that an MSME or even a consumer can speak to in the language of their choice, wherever they are. And these agents really help with onboarding. And behind the scenes, whatever needs to happen, whoever powers that, obviously stays as is. So as an MSME, I do not need to understand backend protocol. I don't need to understand ION. All I have to understand is that if I'm part of this ecosystem, I will certainly have more discovery. So we are committed towards making this happen, and we look forward to the ecosystem in Indonesia to come along and help us in that job. So sorry for the longish answer, but I thought I'll just share my perspective.
Thank you, Siddharth. So yeah, the problem of MSME today is data. Yeah, not only when the banks or the other parties wants to give loans, ask them about the data, but also they themselves don't have their own data, right? They themselves don't keep their own data, so they didn't know last month how many that you have sold. I don't know. We go day by day, right? So this by using this digital infrastructure, they will have the chance to really record by the activities from different sources as well can be combined, right? All right. So to Surab is representing Flip, Indonesian company. Yeah. So what potentials your company Flip sees on Eon that can benefit the MSME, and of course at the same time benefit your company? Yeah. And what will be your approach other than being a payment gateway? And because we know that Flip is a payment gateway, is there any different approach also for the Eon? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for the question, Dr. Bayu. In regards to your first question, I think since morning we have been hearing about how the potential that Eon has, right? So I'll not take a lot of time on that, but I'll do add one point, right? We have talked about democratization, we have talked about decentralization, but one point what I want to add there is it's decentralization of visibility. Like today, your MSMEs don't have visibility, and that's why they need to pay what we call as commission. I call it a tax, right? They need to pay a tax of 20-25% of their transaction value to the closed platform to just get that visibility. And the potential that Ion has is that someone in Jakarta can buy from a handicrafts maker in Bali without that person having to incur this 20-25% tax, right? So the potential is limitless, right? We as a payment provider, as a fintech, naturally come in to facilitate these transactions. In the morning also, I think some of the gentlemen were saying that payments is like a horizontal, it's a platform, right? Which is facilitating the transaction because users need a safe, secure and a stable way to do transactions, do commerce, right? But we don't look at our role just as a payments provider in Aeon, right? We actually want to get to be a network partner. And it's important for fintechs like us to do that. And I'll explain that with an example from India, right? Whenever such networks are launched, they usually have what we call as a cold start problem. We have heard about UPI. UPI was brought in by NPCI. They focused on the infrastructure layer. They focused on the network layer. But the real growth came from the fintechs. Today, more than 90% of the UPI transaction in India originate from different fintech players. There's a company called PhonePe which does more than 50%. So we talked about a 22 billion number. Imagine half of that is getting processed through a fintech app, right? So that is where I feel that it's important for companies, new age companies like ours, to help take this network to the masses because our ability to pivot fast, be agile, enables us to do that better. And the same thing happened with ONDC as well. There were large fintechs like Paytm who were the first movers to adopt ONDC and take it to a larger user audience and create adoption. Other fintechs like PhonePe built a product called PIN code, which was just based on that, right? So with these specific examples, what I'm trying to say is that while, from a theory perspective, right, it is democratized, it needs operators like us to take it to masses, and that is where we want to be involved more deeply to facilitate that. And the advantage that brings in for us, because your last question was, what's beneficial for us, right? So payments is generally a low margin business, right? So that's why you need to enhance your margin towards higher value product. So what I see is once we are, let's say a buyer and a seller app, we have both the legs on our platform, right? And we have talked about data also, right? I mean, data is gold, data is oil, I mean, data is everything today, right? The challenge with MSMEs, what I see is they don't have collateral, okay? And so that's why when they go for uncollateralized loan, the interest rates are crazy. We all know about that as well, right? But when you have the data passing through your rails, right, when each digital transaction is creating a footprint which enables you to underwrite people better, this cost of borrowing goes down. And it applies on both the sides, right? On the buyer side, you can enable users to pay for something they don't have money today through, let's say, products like BNPL that we have. And on the seller side, you can enable the sellers to have working capital loan or supply chain financing. Because you have the data, you know who is buying what, from where, what is the stock available, and all of these data points can be used to underwrite better. So to conclude, I see great opportunity in this because firstly, when you make it open, you make it democratized, the participation increases. And then once you are involved and facilitating this transaction as a payment provider, we see a lot of opportunity for us to grow as a business while growing the network as well by helping both the buyer and the sellers. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunarps. So to Nilay, Nilay is a player in India, been with the ONDC since its establishment. So we want Nilay to share experience on what difference Eon make in the will make in the providing data for that this MSME can have a better visibility and then a better chance to get the loans based on the experience with the ONDC.
Yeah, thank you. So, see, as Saurabh mentioned, on every digital payment there is a footprint created, and based on that, there is one simple way of assessing a creditworthiness of a borrower. At the same time, Credit Bureau of Indonesia is playing an important role for the credit rating. Same way we have TransUnion in India, and globally there are multiple agencies. They have their own age-old way of curating a particular individual's rating. Versus when it comes to business, it's totally different, right? Every segment has its own, every niche has its own complications, its own problems, and their own, requirements. So, whether it's an event-based borrowing that one wants to do, if there's a festive season coming, people want to stock up more so that they can sell more. At the same time, with the e-commerce, what they do is they have their own data that they do not share. With something like ION or ONDC, a piece could be carved out without any name. So your data is not shared with everyone on a no-name basis. Your rating can be, done by a new age company with the new ideas, new ideology, and the actual requirement. Then on the other end, on the other side of the table, you sit with a financial institute, whether it's NBFC or a bank. You understand their BRE, the business rule engine, and understand which financial institute wants to, focus on, let's say, handicraft, or on a grocery store, or on a small merchant. And then also work with the local government authority, which might give some subsidy or intervention from the government side to facilitate that loan. So when all the players come together and then a decision is made, the chances of an inquiry getting converted into an actual loan, which in turn comes out to be useful for the MSME, and which works in the favor of GDP. So I'll give you an example of India. If a large bank in a small town has a limit of, let's say, $10 million to be disbursed, the top 10 people in that town consumes that $10 million. So the branch manager's quota is over from the business standpoint, from the bank. But the real requirement is at the bottom of the pyramid. And that problem is never solved. ION coming in will be able to solve that, will link with the government policies and make sure that that happens. And when this inclusiveness happens, you start seeing the results.
Yeah. Okay. So the ION not only provide with the quantity of data, but also the visibility and also the granularity that can fit more specific demands of other
Demands
parties.
and also in line with the government, right?
Yeah.
What government wants to do is empower small businesses. And when you want to do that, if there is an accountability, there is a way to check that, okay, this parameter is fulfilled. It makes things very simple and easy.
Right, right. I think it's now time for participation of the audience with questions. So can we display the questions? Do we have the questions? Properly? Here, in WhatsApp. So this is technology.
See, ION can solve this also.
Have you said? All right. Okay, so first questions comes from, do we have the name of the question, of the person? All right. So the question is, how can embed payments, financing and insurance within open commerce flows, reduce frictions and cost of MSME and cooperatives? This question is for Nilay.
Sorry, the
Yep.
question is?
How can embed payments, financing and insurance within open commerce flows reduce friction and cost for MSME and cooperatives? How can these feasibilities and the data will reduce the cost of the friction and then, of course, the cost of MSME?
So, first of all, let's say insurance. You write a check to the insurance company, whether it's deposited properly and has it gone through, one doesn't know. And meanwhile, let's say there is a flood. While you're depositing the check, it's not gone through, your policy is not issued, and there is a flood. So you are in a fix. Versus, the moment you click on insurance, you know your insurance is getting expired. You click on it, your insurance is paid for. It could even get converted into EMI. I mean, the rails might not, rails do exist, the product might not exist. But I'm just talking about a future where, 1 million rupiah insurance can be converted into 12 EMIs, and then you pay as you go.
All right.
That can also be a solution. You might pay a little extra for that, but there is something that MSME wants. MSME cannot pull out a chunk of money at one go, but if you ask them to, pay in piecemeal, they will be able to do so. So same way what we are doing in India is, mutual funds. We are encouraging MSMEs to, for goal-based savings. So let's say if they want to send their kids to a university or getting their, save for a function, instead of, asking them to invest 100,000 rupees, Indian rupees, in a month, what we do is we ask them to invest 3,000 rupees a day.
Right.
From the business, they are able to do that. So that kind of flexibility is available. Same with the credit. I mean, if a business has insurance, based on the insurance, the credit rating can be calculated. Based on the mutual fund investment, we are developing a product where mutual fund based loan or overdraft available. So if I've got X amount saved away, I get 80% of it as an overdraft limit automatically assigned. So it's a emergency cash whenever I want.
Right. So I open up for one question from the audience. Anyone to raise questions directly? Any of you? Yes, Sachin, please.
Hi. Very interesting discussion. So I had a question. In fact, I was sitting with the minister earlier and he was talking about incentives. So one of the things that when we start the open network here, and let's say it's up and running, it will take some time for the products and services part to kick in because logistics, many things. So in your, do you have any suggestions what could be the financial products that could be the early entrance to the MSMEs so that they start feeling that I'm getting some immediate value? Because, you know, I joined and then maybe this bank or this companies are giving something which I don't get otherwise. So any recommendations or suggestions from you? Because even credit, for example, you won't have yet a credit, you won't have a transaction footprint yet because the network is just starting. So any creative ideas or maybe anything you can share which could be food for thought for us as we start working with other companies?
So one of the simplest product that I can think of is insurance, because those buggers make crazy amount any which ways. So you can, government can twist their arms and ask them to give insurance if somebody enrolls themselves onto ONDC network. Because, insurance in India is also at a nascent stage versus, business insurance, I'm certain, would be at a very nascent stage in Indonesia. So that is one simple thing, and which is a security in a way. And secondly, there is a scheme by MSME Ministry in India where for network participants to encourage more MSMEs to come on board, where minimum XYZ X SKUs to be uploaded in a digital catalog form, and then minimum 5 transactions or 10 transactions to be done. And then that incentive goes to the network partner. Why? Because they are doing the legwork, they are bringing on the MSMEs. So it's more like an educational product or an incentive to the network partner to bring on the MSME.
Anyone else?
Yeah, if I can add, right? As you said, right, what's the incentive for the MSME to join in it, right? So if you look at today in Indonesia, the key problems with a lot of MSMEs is no one is really acquiring them, right? The cost of acquiring for banks is very high. So banks will focus on larger merchants, they will not acquire them, and hence they don't come into the digital footprint, right? So that is one, I think if we digitize them, if we enable them to accept payments across, because you are building a platform where there are different buyers, but how do you facilitate transactions for them, right? And along with that, I think bookkeeping is another thing which is lacking. And what I've seen with ONDC is, and what Mr. Sharma also talked about is, right, how MSMEs can manage their stock, be aware of it. If you kind of open source it, make it available for them, it makes it easy for them to sell on the network and also be aware of what is the transaction, etc., for them to take better decisions.
All right. So we have another question from Arjun. Is it Arjun here? Anybody named Arjun that raised a question? Okay. The question is, how's fraudulent action reduced with ION? And means that you can see the potential of the person for you to decide to give loans, but then how the payment of the loans can be also tracked by this network, ION network. Maybe you want to answer it?
I can start off.
Yes.
No, that's I think very relevant and in fact justifies why an open network, right? So again, going back to what the comments I made earlier, it's right now the way we look at this is in 2 ways, right? So one is a journey towards credit, which means somebody gets a loan. Second, repayment, which is a completely different ball game and looked at with a different lens. There is no holistic way of figuring that as an MSME, if I've been given some loan, let's say 10 million rupiah, right? How am I using that money? Because today, if I get the loan, it's basically, maybe I'm doing it in business expansion, which is offline. I'm selling on platforms that nobody has any visibility of. Within ION, not only did you get the loan through ION, you're also doing transactions on ION, right? So for a financial institution, that becomes an insurance of sorts, that I can track that if I've given this money and this person is claiming that this is what they have done, here is the digital footprint from ION that they have done this. So it's a win-win for everybody. And that also ties, Sachin, to your earlier point that, in fact, one market where we are actually doing some early testing in pilots is to say that government has said that 3 months from now, you will get this amount of money. It's a fixed amount. But to be able to do that, you have to generate these many transactions and go from there, right? So while it is not an incentive that you get on day one, but it's a guarantee you get if you do something. So it's basically a double whammy in that way.
Thank you. Do we still have time, Papoli? Yeah, okay. There are two questions. Ladies first. Lady first. Please mention your name and from which organizations and the questions. To whom as well.
Thank you for the opportunity, gentlemen. I am Elva Jacob from PT Pasarama Business. We are marketplace e-commerce.
All right.
Yeah. So my question is, what to do with the people in rural or suburban area, like other islands, whom can potentially become sellers, buyers, or even logistic vendors, but they are very limited by internet connection and also knowledge of technology, right? I mean, people down there in village, they don't really have that tech-savvy knowledge or something like that. So need your way out on this.
Okay.
Thank you.
How to jumpstart the knowledge
Yeah,
and skills of
yeah,
the people to
How they
embark
can lodge
into
it
this.
into the system and then get used to it.
All right.
Because how we can reach people in suburban area,
All right.
we are archipelago,
All right.
right? So
I-
we have many islands here in Indonesia.
All right, right. So question should be to Siddharth, right? And maybe we have the second question first. You want to ask a question? Oh, okay, please.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Karyana from Mitra Rencana Edukasi Company. I want to ask the best practice that already implemented in India, that how after the MSME joined the platform, the sustainability, because in e-commerce in Indonesia, mostly they are not a businessman actually, they are only a seller. So what if the small company or micro business company join this platform? The competitions, is it become more fierce, or it can be support being more sustainable? So how to prevent, because I personally I quite doubt the data in the Ministry of the UKM, 60 million. That's the data is since, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it was updated that it was about 30 million something.
that's,
Yes.
yeah, we have to curate the data first,
Right.
because our micro businesses is very vulnerable since the product is mostly imported.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Thank you.
So the question is, how can we help the micro and small business to sustain their business to with this platform,
Yes,
so
yes.
that they not only registered but then they
Yes.
grow
Yes.
within that platform. I think the
Yes.
question should be on for Pak Ronald maybe, right? So I think let's take these two questions first. Please, Siddharth, for the first question.
Cool. No, thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for the question. You're absolutely right. I mean, this is something we've seen in India as well, where it's a big challenge just to onboard to a network, right? So for a small business who's not tech savvy, many of them don't even have a point of sale machine. Suddenly you talk about inclusivity and bring them into internet and so on. It's not easy. But what we've also seen is with ONDC in India and networks which are panning across other domains, it has opened up a huge grass field for innovation. So we've, at least personally, I have over the last 2 years seen at least 10 to 15 companies who have started building tooling for that audience, because earlier they would never even consider building for an MSME, because they would feel that how will I ever reach them, will they pay me at all, and so on and so forth. But now they realize that with an open network like ONDC in India, certainly the penetration of commerce is going to increase from just 10-11% to maybe 40-50% over the years, right? Which means more and more people will sell, more and more people will buy. And hence building these products is very important. In fact, that also deserves a call out to our friends from India over here, because many of them sitting in this room have done exactly that. They've built tools that SMEs can use, come online, do what they're good at, which is selling their product, and not worry about anything else. Now with AI coming in, I think that's going to become even more simpler. Like I said, we are building agents ourselves at Google that you can just speak to and say, this is what I want, this is what I want to sell, this is my product. create a catalog for me. All of that AI can take care of. So it's not an easy problem. It is a problem for sure. But then because there's an incentive for the MSME and the ecosystem, we feel the space will evolve rapidly. And I would urge the Indonesian ecosystem to come forward because you would know the problems best. Nobody from India or the US can solve this for you, right? So the local ecosystem has to step in and take this on.
Thank you, Siddharth. So I think that's the point that the Ministry of OMKM has supported us with the SAPA OMKM. I think with the SAPA OMKM movements that we have support from the government how to help these people with the very minimum skills to embark on this platform, not the platform, and on this EON, right? So that I think that's why we need the supports of everybody so that we really do something together to help this MSME to embark on this open digital platform, the open digital network, so that the MSME can really grow because they are the backbone of the economy of this country, right? So this movement is the movement of us together, right? Yes. We need a lot of people to participate to really micro-touch these people to onboard and to do business. Right? And one of the big supporters also from Apindo. So Padonat is going to answer the second one. Please, Padonat.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a point, Dr. Bayu, on the question, right? I think what Siddharth did cover on the technology and infrastructure part, right? I wanted to add the point from what I've seen in Indonesia being here last 7 years. So building the platform layer in technology is generally easier than adoption. Adoption is critical. And what I've seen with a lot of new age products and even from the schemes that government has, building community leaders is very important. If you want to scale in rural areas, you can't reach everyone. So when you go after some leaders in that community, it could be your Ibu-Ibus, who are just going around and talking about their product, right? That is how you'll find scale. And once you have some impact, once people start seeing the return, that is how it starts compounding and automatically the flywheel starts, right? So you always need to seed few people there, show them impact, and then it automatically goes in. And that, I think, has worked for other products and government schemes as well. And I think that's a way to increase the adoption.
Right. So we need to build the community leaders so that this will rolls on. Yeah. That's the point, right? So please, Ronald.
Okay, yeah, thank you for the question, Pak. So your question is about sustainability in doing business, right? And so I guess as I mentioned earlier that the most important thing in doing business is understanding, having the information of what kind of product and services that you wanna do. So we believe that by having this information, by having this ION, we'll get a lot of more detailed information about what kind of product and services that's successful and what not, and which area, and of course on top of that will be traction of your transaction. And so as discussed with Pak Sachin before, that having the information about your transaction, the volume, the number of transactions, as it's growing, then you can get more funding, even though you don't have as much assets. But that kind of volume of transaction will give you a sort of a credit history, credit scoring to do funding. And having this kind of real-time from ION, you'll be able to recognize if there is anything positive or anything negative, what you should do or what should not, before it catch you up late. When it gets too late, and it's going to get more expensive. So understanding and knowing what you need to improve, what you need to add values to the society, then it will lead you to what kind of a training or capacity building that you need to do. So I guess this ION system is basically addressing what you need in doing business in your life.
Thank you, Pak Ronald. So EON doesn't guarantee that once you embark, you will be successful. Because if you embark and then you put your products is way more expensive than the others, of course, nobody wants to buy in a very feasible open system. But then by doing so, by having feasibility for what others also sell, maybe they can also set up the price point that is feasible for them to really sell the products. Yeah. And then I think to sustain the business, they need some mentoring, some training from those people who have more understanding about business. Yeah, because these micro businesses, maybe they just start the business, and that's how the organizations like Apindo and the community leaders will take parts to develop them. Yeah. Okay, so we have maybe one or two more questions. Yeah, we can facilitate. Any questions? Yes, please.
For those, it's a question for Saurabh. The MSMEs in Indonesia, they are selling to consumers. They're also selling and buying from businesses. There's a B2C and there's a B2B. What percentage of this is digital payments versus cash? How automated is that system today?
Right.
I won't have the number on top of my mind to share, but what I can talk about, so there are two types of commerce here, right? One is organized commerce and one is unorganized commerce. On organized commerce, let's say I don't want to take any names, but let's say you're large e-commerce, right? The penetration of digital has increased over the years, right? So, and they incentivize digital payments as well. And a lot of time these ecosystems want the users to use their own payments, right? So Indonesia is an ecosystem play, right? All the large players have their own payments. So this penetration, to answer to your question, would definitely be around 70 to 75%. I've seen a time where it was below 50, but now it's around 70 to 75%. The top two payment methods here could be your bank VAs, so different virtual accounts that come from the bank, and e-wallets. And then it goes to Curious and other payment methods. Cards hardly have a penetration. On the other side, you have unorganized e-commerce. Unorganized e-commerce, people are selling on Facebook, WhatsApp, small community groups, etc. There also, bank transfers are one of the key payment methods. In fact, one of use cases for our product is, you want to sell, there are resellers who want to sell a product, and they have a bank account, let's say in BCA. The person who is buying has a bank account in BRI. If the person makes a transfer to this BCA account, they incur a fee, right? So that's where actually Flip came in, where it supported interbank transfers as well without any fee. So for unorganized, bank transfer is a key payment method. I don't have the number exactly on the penetration, but that's how I think the split has been. Thank you.
Right, yeah, we've seen a lot of COD payments here, but we haven't got the real numbers, how much transactions done by COD, how much transactions done by transfer by bank payments. Yeah. One more questions, one last questions, if you want to ask questions? Okay. If not, then we close the sessions. We give applause for the speakers, and thank you all for your participations. Thank you.
Thank you all the panelists and moderator for the insightful first panel with the theme, The Open Network Powering Financial Services. May I kindly invite all the panelists to remain on stage and receive a token of appreciation from the Indonesia Economic Forum. At this moment, I would like to invite Mr. Sachin Gopalan, CEO and founder, Indonesia Economic Forum, to kindly present to token appreciation to our distinguished panelists. For the first, Mr. Nilay, founder of Easypay. And Mr. Siddharth Prakash, Head of Product Strategy, Emerging Market, Google Cloud. Next, Mr. Surab Gupta, Senior Vice President, Product Flip, and Mr. Ronald Wala, Head of MSME, Apindo, and President Director of PT Wismilak Inti Makmur, TBK. Yes, we also request all cameraman and photographer to be ready to capture this special moment. Ladies and gentlemen, please give them another warm round of applause. We will be moving forward to the next session. May I kindly invite everyone to come forward and sit at the front, please.